Hare Krishna. We are continuing our Bhagavad Gita course and entering into the most essential and confidential part of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the ninth chapter. And for that reason, it's called the most confidential knowledge. I'd like to share some wonderful things with you in this reading. And it's most confidential because here Krishna talks about bhakti yoga in its fullest extent, at least as it's explained here in the Gita. And the beginning is a preliminary philosophy or philosophical analysis that's not easy. So I want you to just bear with me. And it's a very important thing to understand. Today's session is just going to be an introduction. And well, as you can see, I'm sitting outside here in Krishna Valley, and the sun's shining through the trees. Here, Krishna says, "My dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." Krishna here is talking about, well, what's the real qualification for appreciating and understanding bhakti yoga? He says that one is not envious of him. Early on at the end of the 6th chapter, we heard that Krishna is talking about having faith in him. Here he says that yes, and one should not be envious of his stated position, his self-stated position as a supreme, that same position which is described throughout the Vedic literature and throughout the Bhagavad Gita and by other self-realized authorities. So he says, now I'm going to give you this most confidential knowledge. And what will be the result if we have this confidential knowledge? You will be relieved of the miseries of material existence. We're all suffering here. And we want to become freed from the pangs of birth, death, old age, disease, and everything that comes between all of those, like viruses and so on, and COVID-19s. So then, Krishna tells us, well, what will be the nature of that knowledge that liberates us? He says, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It's the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It's everlasting and it's joyfully performed. Really wonderful things, aren't they? These phrases. He says, this is the king of education. Well, we're really into an age where people want to be educated. Here, this is the king of all education. He says, but it's a real secret. And not only is it a secret, but it's the secret of secrets. It's the most secret of all secrets. This is very rarely understood and very rarely known, unfortunately, because people who are not qualified to speak on yoga and to even speak on bhakti discuss this topic. What is the it is pure knowledge, not only pure, but he says, pavitram, it is the purest knowledge. Why? Because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. In other words, you will realize who you are by the empowerment of this knowledge. The perfection of all religion, religion has a goal. What's the ultimate goal of all religion? So here Krishna says, yes, bhakti. Is this something sectarian? Is this something that's related to Hinduism, doesn't relate to anything else? No, because remember, what is bhakti all about? Bhakti is about loving the Supreme. It's about love. And if you know how to love the Supreme, then you can love everyone else and everything else. So therefore, it's the perfection. All religions and Christianity love God. That's the primary commandment. Everything else is secondary. And it's everlasting. In other words, it's not something that you attain and then it gets lost, but it's something that you keep. And unlike other yoga practices, austerities, penances, he says it is joyfully performed. It's a joyful process. And that's why you see bhakti yogas, what do? They dance, they sing. Who dances and sings except for people who are joyful? But this is the type of dancing and singing that doesn't end with a hangover, it doesn't end with a headache, it doesn't cause anyone else any harm because it's everlasting. So this verse is worthy of being read in Sanskrit. He says, Rajavidyam, Rajaguyam, Pavitram, Idamuttamam, Pratyaksha Dharmyam, Shukam Kartum Avyayam. Shuka means joyful. He says, Susukha, very joyful. So Susukam Kartum Avyayam, and it's everlasting. So it's this knowledge that we're going to actually be entering into, and it's this realm of bhakti and devotional service that we're going to step into. But first, Krishna wants us to understand some very deep philosophical truths in terms of his relationship with the world's relationship to him, and of course the world includes us as well. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to discuss the next verses, which start from verse 4 on, and sort of summarize what is really the essence of all philosophy or philosophical truth. But that's going to be for our next meeting. And thanks very much for bearing with me. Hare Krishna.